Working on a film set is undoubtedly hard, especially for those who have creative control. People are constantly trying to get their vision on screen and are forced to compete with meddling studios who want to exercise their own form of creative control, oftentimes seeing profit over artistic integrity. However, sometimes it's not just helicopter studios that have directors to deal with. In some instances, actors exercise their own form of creative control, for better or worse. While in some instances, these actors can offer a new avenue for the film to fully form, allowing the director to see things from a different perspective and offering their unique take on the material. In much worse times, these actors can overstep their mark and derail a production, influencing the wrong areas. What should be a collaborative effort descends into a bout between two creative voices that are both trying desperately to shout the other down. I am Kirsten from What Culture, and these are 10 actors who had too much creative control. Number 10, Vin Diesel, The Rock, and Jason Statham in the Fast and Furious franchise. Okay, this one is slightly cheating. However, all three actors demand the same thing from the same franchise, so including them all together seems fitting. The three men have been in the Fast and Furious franchise for some time now, but it's only recently came to light that the three men have some bizarre contracts binding them during production. During the press tour of the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, it was revealed that the actors had contracts that dictate how much punishment they can take on screen. In essence, this means that all three men have to take an equal amount of hits, and one man can't seem like a clear winner in a bout. This truly odd contract forces the writers and directors of these films to work their story around how many times each actor gets punched in the face. The Rock put the contracts down to the men being alphas. Number 9, Christian Bale in Terminator Salvation. Terminator Salvation is the Terminator sequel that tried something different. Despite being critically panned and underperforming at the box office, it can be looked back on now as the one that at least attempted to differentiate itself from what came before, even if it did fail. Ironically, the production of the film seemed to be more popular than the final product. Everyone knows the story. John Connor actor Christian Bale was recorded freaking out at the director of photography, Shane Herbert, as he apparently walked onto set as Bale was doing a take. The clip went viral and completely overshadowed the $200 million shoot. As it turns out, this was not the only sign that Bale had a level of control that is only afforded to the most bankable of actors. Director McGee apparently wanted Bale for the role of Marcus Wright, played by Sam Worthington in the final film, but the Batman star had other ideas. Bale was far more interested in playing Connor and had the role beefed up to accommodate him. Additionally, he played a big role in rewriting much of the script before shooting and spent up to 8 hours a day in the editing suite to help McGee. Number 8, David Harbour in Hellboy. Production of 2019's Hellboy was hellish from the offset. Between producers taking over control from director Neil Marshall and post-production that was filled with disputes, it's no surprise that it was released to awful reviews, along with flopping at the box office. One of the more intriguing elements of this troubled production is the creative authority that Hellboy actor David Harbour took. According to the reports that surfaced around the time of the film's theatrical release, Harbour and co-star Ian McShane would rewrite scenes against Marshall's instructions. Harbour was also reluctant to do many takes for the director and was reported to have walked off set. This is an interesting entry, as this may not have been a case of Harbour believing that he is above the production and therefore allowed to make his own changes to the script. Rather, it seems that the production was so muddled that Harbour attempted to course correct in order to get a better product. Sadly, it didn't work. Number 7, Edward Norton in Red Dragon. It's fair to say that Edward Norton has somewhat of a reputation in the industry. While there is no doubt that he is talented and dedicated to his craft, this ability can come at the expense of others during a shoot. The director of American History X, Tony Kaye, called Norton a narcissistic dilettante after the two battled over the film's final edit. Norton brought this level of creative control to the Silence of the Lambs prequel, Red Dragon. According to reports, Norton would arrive to the set with newly written pages which he himself fashioned, entirely defied director Brett Ratner and the producers. Norton was insistent that his writing was better than the screenwriter Ted Talley's script and forced Ratner to shoot the scenes. No one on set was impressed. Number 6, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. After the smash hit of Terminator 2, Judgment Day, there was no question if there was going to be a sequel, only when. After an incredibly troubled development that saw the rights get passed around like a parcel, the rights eventually went to C2 Pictures, who sought to reignite the franchise franchise after a long hiatus. Once they got a script in place, they began to negotiate with Schwarzenegger, who initially didn't want to do the films without James Cameron's involvement, but settled after Cameron told him to just do it for the money. Negotiations with Schwarzenegger proved that he held all the cards as in the final settlement. He got a massive paycheck and a lot of influence over the production. Schwarzenegger supposedly got over $29 million along with 20% of the gross from not just the film but also its surrounding merchandise. In addition to this, he had final say over the director, cast, stuntmen, and his own doctor. The negotiations of the contract themselves cost around $2 million. Despite the excess control of the creative process and his attempts to steer the film in a direction similar to Cameron's initial vision, it was still a mess, and was considered the worst of the franchise until it was outdone by the progressively worse sequels. Looking at you, Terminator Genesis. Number 5. KLAUS Kinski in AGUIRRE, The Wrath of God. Perhaps one of the most famous disputes between an actor and director in the history of cinema, it's fair to say that the relationship between KLAUS Kinski and Werner Herzog was contentious. The film, which is set in 1560, follows Spanish soldier Lope de Aguirre, played by Kinski, as he guides a group of conquistadors to find El Dorado. As both men have divergent visions on how the character of Aguirre should be played, it was inevitable that they would clash. While Herzog wanted the character to be portrayed in a calm and collected manner, Kinski saw him more as a raving lunatic who would have violent outbursts. Kinski would often walk off set because Herzog wouldn't agree with him. Herzog would respond by purposely making Kinski mad and then roll the cameras. At one point, Kinski got so mad that he shot a gun at a tent where crew members were playing cards. Much of the crew were naturally afraid of Kinski due to these violent eruptions. Once, after walking off, Kinski only returned to set after Herzog threatened to shoot him and then turned the gun on himself. Talk about a troubled production. Number 4. Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Sometimes an actor having a great amount of creative control can be a good thing. This was the case during the production of the first Pirates of the Caribbean film, Curse of the Black Pearl. The lead star, Johnny Depp, continually defied Disney producers who wanted him to alter his performance. Disney were apparently not happy that Depp continued to do the accent that he created for the character, despite being told to change it. He later then said that he was just waiting to be fired as he knew Disney hated him. In addition to this, Depp would rip up the pages of the script on set and just do what he believed the character would do, ignoring advice from director Gore Verbinski and Disney higher-ups. This resulted in the producers becoming increasingly worried that the film would flop. They were already concerned as the last big-budget pirate film released in theatres, Cutthroat Island, was a massive bomb. They couldn't have been more wrong, however, as Curse of the Black Pearl was a box office success and spawned the hugely popular franchise that we know today. Depp is now synonymous with the character and all the eccentricities that came with him. Number 3. Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. When Marlon Brando turned up on the set of Apocalypse Now to play a role that he is now revered for, Colonel Walter E. Kurtz, director Francis Ford Coppola was not happy. Brando turned up grossly overweight, entirely against Coppola's wishes, as he viewed the character as lean, and he hadn't bothered to learn the lines. Production had to be paused so Coppola could explain everything to him. Brando also had a set of demands to the filmmakers. He wanted to be kept away from Dennis Hopper during the shoot as he disagreed with his lifestyle. This meant scenes that contained the pair had to be shot on different days to dismay of the crew. Additionally, he made the decision on his own to shave his head and had the final say in what the character would wear. Improvisation was also something that he felt would work and had Coppola film him at random. Despite all of this, the performance and film turned out excellent. Apocalypse Now is considered to be one of the greatest films of all time, and Brando's performance as Kurtz is seen as one of his best. Sometimes an overzealous actor can play in favour of a film. Number 2. Edward Norton in The Incredible Hulk. Edward Norton's The Incredible Hulk has already been swept under the rug, both in the collective popular consciousness and by Marvel Studios. Released as the second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe following Iron Man, which released just a month prior. The Incredible Hulk was not as well received as Iron Man and grossed significantly less, although it was considered as an improvement over Ang Lee's Hulk outing from 2003. Of course, the Hulk everyone knows today is Mark Ruffalo, who began to play the character in 2012's The Avengers, and there is a good reason for this. Behind the scenes, Norton allegedly overstepped often, rewriting the script and having a heavy influence on the post-production process, an area that actors tend not to influence. In the aftermath, Norton publicly stated that he interfered to such an extent because he wanted a better script, claiming that he was trying to steer the film more towards something Christopher Nolan would make, rather than a generic CGI action film. Marvel had a different approach and did not appreciate the meddling. It's no wonder he was replaced. Number 1. Tom Cruise in The Mummy. Maybe cinema's greatest disaster story. The Mummy was a mess from minute one. What was meant to kick off a cinematic universe akin to the MCU instead became the poster child for playing your hand a little too early. Both the critical and commercial failure, The Mummy floundered like a fish out of water. From the outset, it seems easy to blame the poor script and flack direction from Alex Kurtzman, but the production history is more complex than that. Soon after The Mummy crashed in theatres, it came to light that leading man Tom Cruise had a greater degree of control than originally assumed. Cruise supposedly had a say in almost every area of the production. He rewrote sections of the script, told Kurtzman how to direct scenes, and even influenced the editing of the film, with sections having to be cut to his specifications. Despite his overarching control, the film still ended up as a jumbled mess. One can only assume that when you're such a big star like Cruise, you can demand a certain level of control before even signing onto a project. You command the box office, so you should command the film, for better or worse. And there we go, the actors that took that little bit too much of creative control. What do you think was the worst one? Leave us a comment down below and let us know. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. But for now, I have been Kirsten Ria, and I will see you in the next video.